one of the things I learned throughout my journey of trying to do investment clubs, and I'm pretty sure people can relate to this. The first one you try to start with family, right?
That laugh says everything you need to know about starting investment clubs with family.
You try to start with family or close friends, and that's always an issue. So my point is, if anybody's out there watching, you have to find your tribe, right? Finding your tribe is important, and find people who are like-minded, who have the same vision. And even if they don't just completely align, someone that's like-minded, because you guys can figure things out and work things out as you grow. But the one thing that, we all have in common is we want the club to succeed, because it's bigger than just the money, to be honest, in my opinion, at least. Is this whole process, and, I've told you this offline before, like, to me, this is bigger than the money. Again, studying
bigger than the money.
Listen, when you study Reverend Leon Sullivan and what he was able to accomplish, I've always wanted to be a part of something like that, because I just thought that was one of the more revolutionary and powerful things that has happened in our community that's really not talked about a lot. Let me ask you this question. Were you familiar with the 1036 beforehand? Is it something that you tried to, did you have that in mind when you started out this journey, or is it something you learned along the way, or you already knew about it?
So I was familiar with the 1036 plan. Hopefully I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah.
So I was familiar, and I tried to use elements of it. Matter of fact, on our it's not really a website, but our web page that we have for the investment club, there's an article or history of Leon Sullivan's his plan there. So I like to think of us that we are rooted in that original idea that he had. And one of the questions I have for sort of our elders here in Philadelphia is that why, when Leon Sullivan created something that worked so well, why was it not duplicated?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question.
I mean, I can tell you the answer to that.
What's your opinion, Cor?
Our government doesn't want it to be duplicated. And because, the thing our government uses is confusion, and confusion of, what we mean to each other, right? So they pit one of us against the other, and we don't trust each other. And so that's why it hasn't been duplicated.
Well, a lot of times I also feel like we're also looking for leaders. We're looking for that charismatic leader.
That's the other part of it.
Yeah, as opposed to group work, because group work is how you grow anything, in my opinion. But, a lot of times we're looking for that charismatic leader. And, what happens when you have the charismatic leader is you chop up the leader's head, and then the whole thing is gone.
So I absolutely agree with what you just said, Jimmy. The only thing, Corey, I would sort of bring into the conversation is when I look at our folks as a culture, there are certain areas in which we know how to build teams, and sports is one of them. Mm-hmm. But we have to mature to realize that the biggest game out here being played is this game of business.
Yeah.
And that's where we've got to perfect the teams. So when I used to play, basketball when I was growing up, I couldn't blame the other team. Like, the other team is doing this and the other team is doing that. They don't want us to win. Of course they don't want you to win. That's the other team. It was all about
this is not about blame, though. So what I'm saying is, regardless of what we do, we know what the situation looks like, right? And so we have to act like we know what the situation looks like, right? If we see a snake, we got to say it's a snake. When we see a wolf, we got to say it's a wolf. You know what I mean? So the thing is,
I just think we have a lot of agency, because, and here's an example of what I mean by that. If we never started IBB Investment Club, then in 2021, folks would have the same sentiments like, we can't do it, they won't let us do it, and blah, blah, blah. And what they're saying, there would be nothing to sort of challenge that idea. And so people would continue to believe it. But because we have done it, if someone makes any of those statements now, we can very easily point to, hey, look at this.
Like,
they got 28
about paperwork, Jim? What'd you say about paperwork?
Documentation beats conversation 10 out of 10 times.
Documentation beats conversation 10 times out of 10. It's been done, documented, done.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's important.
That's the only thing. I'm just trying to, get that message out there that we have agency to do more than what many of us believe we can do, and we just need to come together in teams. The bald and the ones with hair.
No, but I think that's why it's important to document this history and have this conversation, because who knows where it be as a club in 10 years from now. We can always look back on this episode and say, wow, it came a long way. We had 100,000. Now we're at, 10 million or whatever it may be. So
we're going to be on our yacht. We're going to have this conversation on our yacht in 10 years.
This is true.
Say less.
No, this is true. But like I said, this is bigger than the money also, because when you start to talk about like things that affect our community, a lot of it is economic, right? So these things, and though that's why I said banks have to be reimagined, what we call banks, but these are vehicles. These are vehicles that we can use to do bigger projects, whether that's buying a skyscraper one day or building a school, but now we have the framework as a community to come together to put the work in. It's about putting that work in, taking actual action. You said something that was interesting to me. You said in our community, we know a lot of people that, have a nice car, have a nice house, but it's not too many that are part of an entity as a group of Black folks that are putting something together, right? All of us can point to somebody that's achieved success individually, but not many of us can point to a group that has achieved success as a group.
That's part of what I was talking about with the rugged individualism. That's part of what our culture preaches, right? You get to the bag. You do this, you succeed. It's never we succeed. You know what I mean? So it's never like if I succeed, we succeed. It's always if I succeed, I've succeeded. And then, that praise get heaped upon that person who succeeded, which they deserve every single bit of that praise. This is not a hater session. You deserve every single bit of that praise. But the thing about it is nothing big gets done alone. Nothing.
Right.
Yeah, and that's part of what I was talking about with the way our culture is set up, the way the at-large population.
Well, I mean, that's why it's incumbent upon those that know better to do better, right? Because we could change culture, and that's kind of what Joe was talking about. Like we have a culture specifically in Philadelphia, like a basketball culture. We put together a basketball team in a heartbeat and travel with the team and go compete. But we have to learn to operate in this business space and stop practicing the rugged individual. See, in my opinion, a lot of times our folks, they want to be the oppressor themselves. They want to achieve stuff by themselves so they can actually turn around and be the oppressor, as opposed to and that's a whole other conversation. But now
a lot of truth to that statement.
Yeah, but now we're operating in a space where we're talking about cooperative economics and then we're doing it. That's the most important thing. This is not just rhetoric like your first group. We've actually done something, right?
Yeah, ain't a lot of talk. Well, I mean, we do a lot of talking, but it's not a lot of talking without action.
Exactly. Action is the most important thing. Even
if you can talk all you want, but by the 15th, you need to have your money in.
Say whatever you want. But that's what I mean. Send that check.